Hey folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, October 28th. Mike Tomlin will be speaking at the South Side today in his first press conference, his only press conference of the week, as the Pittsburgh Steelers start week 9, where they will host the Indianapolis Colts and look to avoid a dreaded 3-game losing streak, something we will talk about, I'm sure, a lot this week. But today, I'm going to talk about the Steelers' new addition, wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who was signed by the team on Monday evening. The former Green Bay Packer, Kansas City Chief, New Orleans Saint, Buffalo Bills, Seattle Seahawk, and whatever, San Francisco 49er, most recently, wide receiver, will be reunited with Aaron Rodgers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. What does MVS bring to PGH is the big question here. And does this signing take the Steelers out of the running for trading for another wide receiver at the deadline? I'll take those questions first. What does Valdes-Scantling bring? Well, he's 6'4", and that's a big deal if you've seen the rest of the Steelers wide receiver room, which is quite short, other than DK Metcalf and Ben Skoranek, who is mostly there for his special teams and his blocking. It gives them another X receiver, someone who could theoretically be DK Metcalf's backup if he were to get hurt. That is something they did not have until this point. Maybe they had Isaiah Hodgins on the practice squad. Oh, also, I should add, I do expect MVS to be signed to the practice squad first. That move will be announced officially probably tomorrow or maybe later today, but I'd expect him to go to the practice squad first and then get promoted to the active roster, just like he did when he signed with San Francisco. It's fairly common when you're talking about bringing in veterans mid-season anymore. And so he is a field stretcher. He is the all-time NFL leader in average yards per reception. He has not had a 5-reception game since 2023. 2022. He's not a volume target guy. He is going to have 1 or 2 catches a game. Most of his impact will be on what he is able to do to the defense when he's out there, regardless of whether he's getting the ball or not. Meaning it is another player that teams have to account for, that they can't leave 2 players on DK Metcalf. They can't cloud a safety towards DK Metcalf and just ignore the deep threat of the other receiver on the opposite side. It definitely helps get DK Metcalf open more than, say, Roman Wilson over there. Not that Roman Wilson has been playing badly, and I don't think this will necessarily take a lot away from Roman Wilson, his targets, but when you look at like what Roman Wilson has mostly been doing has been space opening, just running cardio, and he's not really well suited to that role. He's not the fastest receiver. He's not the tallest receiver. He's not a real threat. And so what this is a real threat that teams will have to account for to go run some cardio. And so, I mean, I would categorize this as like a wide receiver 4 kind of addition, maybe wide receiver 3 in a certain way, but he's not going to get targets ahead of Calvin Austin. He's certainly not going to take away targets from DK Metcalf. I think it's a very depth move. To me, it feels similar to the Steelers trading for Mike Williams last year, with the exception that they don't have to trade anything to get MVS. And I think that's good because the Steelers don't want to trade draft picks because they're not all in on this season. They're rebuilding, and they know they're going to need those draft picks next year. And it's hard to argue that this team is worth really putting a lot of draft capital into at this point. But certainly not the wide receiver position. I mean, the offense has been fine. I mean, the big problem is what if DK Metcalf gets hurt? But they're playing around their lack of a wide receiver 2 quite nicely. Will they still look for a wide receiver 2 in the trade market? I think they'll still look. I think they're still interested in guys like Rashid Shaheed, Jacoby Myers. I do think it will be a prerequisite that they are able to do some kind of deal if the player does not have multiple years left on his contract to keep him. I don't think they will trade a draft pick, especially not with the prices being discussed right now. Right now, reports are that both of those players, the ask is a day 2 pick. The Steelers are not going to trade that for a rental. And maybe if they can work out a deal to sign a contract extension with the player as part of a trade, they'll do it. They're not going to trade day 2 pick for a rental. And I think, like, are those 2 players wide receivers? Yeah, they're not great ones. Like, there's no one's like, well, we got Jacoby Myers, so our wide receiver position is solved. Like, it's fine. It's not like Metcalf, Myers, Austin suddenly vaults the Steelers into competition with, Higgins, Chase, Yoshivas, or Waddle or Hill, and I don't even know who the Dolphins wide receiver 3 is right now, or better yet, Smith, Dotson, and AJ Brown. Like that, like it's not like that's the move that puts their wide receiver core over the cusp into greatness. So I don't think it's a very good wide receiver market. I think the prices are very high. It would not surprise me at all if the Steelers decide to sit it out and not make a trade for a wide receiver. But I don't think this move specifically means that they won't try. But I think it's been trending toward them, not loving what's out there anyway. And so this makes perfect sense to go get a guy who doesn't cost anything. By the way, the Seahawks are paying his salary, so he literally doesn't cost anything. And just make your small addition. If they are going to make a move, I think right now, given the state of the team and the injury to Deshaun Elliott, which was reported late last night by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, that he is expected to miss the entire season, I think a safety is far more likely to be traded for than a wide receiver at this point, and they should use their assets that way. But yeah, so I mean, you got a deep threat, you got a big body on the outside, someone who could possibly replace DK Metcalf. You get him for absolutely free. Oh, and by the way, he has a long history with Aaron Rodgers, played with him for 4 years in Green Bay at the start of his career. So he should be able to pick up on the offense pretty quickly. Not that the Steelers are running like the full Aaron Rodgers offense. There's a lot of run stuff that wasn't in there before, but the sort of passing game concepts where you need your quarterback and your receiver to be on the same page have been very Aaron Rodgers centric, and it should be pretty easy for him to pick up and go, which was an issue, obviously, with the Steelers' Mike Williams last year. So if you can get a guy who can be more adaptable to the offense right away, you don't have to spend a draft pick for him. I think this is a very reasonable addition to the Steelers wide receiver room. He is the exact kind of player they need. Just in an ideal world, you would get the much younger, much better version of him to be your wide receiver too, and then you would have Corey Davis, right? I mean, that's basically what the Arthur Smith offense prescribes, but they do not have. They've got the great value brand right now, and that's what they're working with. But I think this is a good move, a good solid addition to the offense that should provide some dividends. But we're going to write a whole bunch this week about the big picture, and none of it's going to be about the offense. The offense is doing just fine, and I would be somewhat surprised if they go make a big splash at wide receiver. Have been surprised. I haven't been expecting that, and with the price tags of guys like Shaheed and Myers, so I know they're interested in. This gives them some nice insurance against those prices never coming down. You never know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. You're playing a dangerous game if you decide to wait and you end up with nothing. And then DK Metcalf gets hurt, you have no backup, and you look pretty silly. So, all right, that's all about MVS. We'll have more on the Steelers and the state of their defense after we talk to Mike Tomlin right here on your YouTube channel and in your audio feeds. Me and Smitty on the afternoon drive, 6 o'clock. Stay tuned for that. I'm sure it's going to be a great one. Until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.